Greetings, my fellow free loving thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Friday, July 7th, 2017. Ooh, yeah. Plus, I'm at CJ's Java Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, Suite 1, along the beautiful New River of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, within the New River Yacht Club, which is the southwest section of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Well, just do a little scoping around and figure out what I want to be addressing today. So I got a few things I would say, to be very sincere. I had to watch some of the videos on this one article, and I will talk about it as we speak. And I had to do a great laugh. This one here is from The Intercept, and it's entitled NYPD Attempts to Block Surveillance Transparency Law with Misinformation. This is by Ali Winston, and it's just a disturbing article if you live in the great city of New York. Like, they believe that you people are too damn stupid. You serve them. That's what their mentality is. And as this reads, earlier this year, New York City Council members Vanessa Gibson and Daniel Garodnick introduced the Public Oversight of Surveillance Technology Act, which would require public disclosure and dialogue on the New York Police Department's purchase and use of surveillance equipment. This bill is in the weaker vein of similar legislation passed under consideration by lawmakers in 19 cities across the U.S. There's links on it, so check it out. Where elected officials, I like to say elected officials, let's call them servants, okay? Hope to write, use policies, and improve the purchase of surveillance gear. Criminal justice reform civil rights groups have praised the Post Act for the transparency it brings to NYPD spy equipment purchases. But the bill already faces a steep path to passage as law. Mayor Bill de Blasio opposes it, meaning the city council will need to approve legislation with at least 34 votes to override the mayor's veto. What can we say? He thinks the world, New York City, should revolve around him. Go figure. Mayor de Blasio is nothing more than a bend-over Bob to the New World Order. In addition, he praises that his city is involved with the Strong Cities Network. And I will continue on here. The tough odds haven't stopped the NYPD from throwing itself into bare-knuckles publicity campaign to push against the proposed legislation. NYPD Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism John Miller laid into the Post Act during a Public Safety Committee hearing on June 14th, calling the proposed bill disclosure requirements insane and an effective blueprint for those seeking to do us harm. There is a habit now, a trend calling, documented, authorized investigation, police spying. Miller said at the hearing, this is all balled up some kind of paranoia. We operate under strict rules. And the videos there is like 37 seconds long. You can see this for yourselves. Paranoid. Oh my goodness. You can trust us. We're with the government. So we'll continue on. In June 16th appearance on MSNBC's Morning Joe, WNYPD Commissioner for Legal Affairs Lawrence Byrne said, this is not about transparency. This is about keeping New York City safe. This is about not revealing confidential law enforcement investigative techniques. MSNBC did not invite any proponents of the bill to speak on the program, and the show's host lobbed softball questions at Byrne and Miller when they weren't busy working themselves into a lather per the Friday of the Brennan Center, one of the prominent supporters of the Post Act. Remember, MSNBC are on their knees doing the skin flute, symbolically speaking. So proceed. During their recent testimonies at City Council, Miller and Byrne made a number of statements that mischaracterized or omitted crucial details regarding the department's record of transparency. It's used for specific technologies like cell site simulators, the surveillance of communities of color, and how such technologies are required by police. Here's a rundown of those statements. Transparency. The NYPD is notorious for flouting for the New York State of Freedom of Information law for even the most routine requests about police activity, contracts, and policies regarding surveillance technology. The department has been or is being used for using to release information about facial recognition software. It's used to predict the policing software, controversial X-ray vans, and the mosque raking program that placed the city Muslim community under mass surveillance. So, most recently, the local news channel NY1 sued the NYPD for footage from officers' body-worn cameras, which are being introduced to precincts throughout this year. The police demanded $36,000 to release the footage. Could we say, Rico? Yeah, I like Rico. But I got a badge. I could do whatever I want. Glamour Kings. And, of course, the video on here on transparency. You can see it for yourself. They had like 5-6 videos on here. So, trust me, it is very deplorable. All right? He can't even kind of chimpanzee as far as I'm concerned. The NYPD also recently invoked the Glamour response to FBI's famous "we cannot confirm or deny" construction in response to the request for public records. It represents a bold new frontier in opacity for New York State's open records law, which are supposed to require affirmative or negative responses. Addressing federal transparency requirements at the June hearing, Miller said that the federal law doesn't require the NYPD to release information on how technology is used for investigative or counterterrorism purposes. While Miller is correct about the exemptions of federal law for privacy impact assessments, which are mandated by the E-Government Act of 2002, federal law enforcement nonetheless publishes highly descriptive documents for many sensitive databases on the open web. Federal authorities have released detailed documentation on the capabilities of the ICE gangs, and now this continued gang database for immigration and customs enforcement, as well as LeadTrack and Falcon-SA, the two ICE's data analysis tools used to track and identify suspects in criminal and civil immigration investigations. Trust me, when you watch these videos, man, you like want to laugh, puke, or down 911, right? Unless you're in New York. Mass surveillance and hands chew. Since 1985 settlement over NYPD's surveillance of left-wing organizations, the department's intelligence operations on political activities have been subject to a federal consent decree known as the Hands-Chew Agreement. The nature, extent, and constitutionality of the NYPD spying on political groups first became during the 1971 trial of 21 Black Panther members accused of attempting to bomb police stations and department stores. The agreement between the department and the federal government established strict guidelines for how the NYPD can monitor First Amendment activity. Those are the strict rules Miller was referring to during the city council hearing. The cops, however, chaffed at the hands-chew restrictions for years. In 2003, they successfully convinced the presiding federal judge to loosen the limits under the premise that they impeded under the NYPD's counterterrorism operations. The relaxed regulations on political surveillance manifested in the department's undercover operations directive at anti-war protesters, transportation activists, left-wing political activists nationwide, and most notoriously, Muslim Americans. Yes, let's have a witch hunting fetish. NYPD's finest. Witch hunting is our game. Climaxing is our game. The demographics units created by former Commissioner Ray Kelly in the mid-2000s went about mapping Muslim and Middle Eastern communities in the city's 5 boroughs. Meanwhile, undercover officers were sent to infiltrate religious congregations and student groups as far afield as Connecticut and New Jersey. The demographics units have been disbanded, and the department's mosque-raking questions led to a legal settlement. And further operational restrictions last year, but activists and legal workers in the department's surveillance in the Middle East and South Asian communities is still prevalent. At the hearing, Byrne claimed the police were not engaged in surveillance programs of any community. The statement belied by the NYPD Inspector General report that focused on the department's surveillance operations of political activities involving people of Muslim origin. More than 50% of those investigations continue to be on their date of authorization, the report found. Miller and Burns' assertions about the NYPD's human intelligence operations received significant pushback from Queens Council member Rory Lankman, who recalled past abuses despite court oversight. The department has repeatedly over the years pushed the limits of what can it do in terms of intel gathering and surveillance. Lankman said, "There's a reason," Lankman added. "The hands-through agreement over time on numerous occasions has to be modified and expanded." Yes, we gotta keep the big brother game going. Orwellian Fetish 101. Can we say that will make you feel safe? I call it a wet dream. I can dream about it. The government will make me feel safe. Yep, that's all it is. Funding and disclosure of surveillance equipment. For years, the NYPD has kept details of its purchase of surveillance equipment from public view, going so far as to redact even the most anonymous information about grant spending and rejecting my Freedom of Information Law requests about surveillance technology contracts on over 10 occasions since 2006. There is supposed to be external oversight of the NYPD's contracts by the Independent City Comptroller's Office, which registers agency procurements, and the Mayor's Office of Contract Services. At the June hearing, Byrne explained the process. Every contract that the NYPD enters, whether it's for confidential technology or equipment or pens and pencils and legal pads, has to be approved by the Mayor's Office of Contracts and has to be registered by the Comptroller, Byrne said. If the Comptroller doesn't register the contract, we cannot go forward. Contracts for at least 2 of the NYPD's major surveillance technologies, the department's cell site stimulators, which collect information from nearby mobile phones, and the data mining software from the security analytics firm Planeter, were not turned over by the Comptroller's office pursuant to a Freedom of Information Law request, according to a recent report by BuzzFeed. The NYPD paid Planeter $3.5 million annually for services, which are reportedly being terminated. The Brennan Center has an ongoing FOIA lawsuit for documentation of Planeter's work with the NYPD. The request unearthed contract records for the NYPD's license plate readers contractor, SLSAG, Vigilance Solutions, national database of billions of vehicle records, and shot spotter gunshot detectors that geolocate the sound of gunfire, which firmly enabled microphones and issue automatic notifications for the police. So, beep, it's like if something blasts, something goes off, yep, boom, instantaneously, go there immediately. There are multiple ways that the police department can conceal contract information outside the stringence on record laws. The city's law department, which is a branch of the mayor's office and handles most of the city's legal affairs, can unilaterally declare a contract to be registered and not turned over to comptroller. Oh, wow, like I got all this power. The NYPD can also request the comptroller review contract in confidence and withhold that information from public disclosure. Or the department can channel the purchase of surveillance technology through the New York City Police Foundation, a private non-profit organization that is not subject to public disclosure laws and received major donations from firms like Axon, Planeter, and Microsoft, which sell technology to the NYPD. Oh, how sweet it is, right? An NYPD can withhold contracts for sensitive technology pursuant to a non-disclosure agreement with the vendor, according to Burns' remark at the council. Many of the technologies, because they're only effective if bad people don't know how they work and how to defeat it, are given us pursuant to very strict non-disclosure agreements, he said. Well, this guy's a big blasphemous piece of garbage, right? How surveillance technology works. One of the few technologies of the NYPD openly discussed at the City Council hearing was cell site stimulators, which are devices that mimic cell phone towers to identify, locate, and in some cases intercept communications from cell phones. Last year, the New York Civil Liberties Union released records documenting the NYPD's use of cell site stimulators over 1,000 times from 2008 through May 2015. Burton characterized the department's use of devices as pursuant to the court order supported by probable cause. No search warrant, probable cause, I assume, and affirmed they were only used to track the location of target phones. It could be your phone out there, and you have nothing to hide, right? However, the NYPD come under fire last year for using court orders that did not spell out that cell stimulator were used to track a cell phone. Both the U.S. Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security have abandoned these orders in favor of warrants which carry with them more privacy protections for cell site simulator use. What's more, Burns' assertion that the department's cell site simulators only gather data on target cell phones misrepresents how the devices actually work. They function by hoovering up signals from all cell phones within range, allowing searches through that pool of data for the target device's identifying number. Burns' remark disturbed Price, an attorney at the Brennan Center who testified in favor of the Post Act at the City Council hearing. NYPD literally believes that cell site simulators will work like pen registrators. Prince told The Intercept, referring to an older technology that tracks calls made and received by a target phone is either a misunderstanding on Burns' part or a misrepresentation that underscores the need for the kind of disclosure outlined in the Post Act. Prince pointed out that both the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security acknowledge the collection of non-target data by cell site simulators and require deletion within 30 days of collection. Oh, 30 days. Should be done immediately, as far as I'm concerned. No vote has been held yet on the Post Act. The NYPD campaign to oppose the bill in the court of public opinion has already won favorable coverage in the Wall Street Journal's opinion page. The department's legendary intransigence on public disclosure and oversight then is likely to continue, and the City Council, which has faced NYPD's overreach on issues like stop and frisk, will likely be stymied. If the Post Act represents the Council's last chance to shed some sunlight on a surveillance practice, the country's largest police department, it may yield only a failed effort. This is really amazing, I would say, very fascinating when you have the so-called largest police department in the country trying to tell you, we know better than you on how to do things. This is pretty damn sick, I would say. What were the people in New York going to do about it? As far as I'm concerned, it's time to use those cell phones and just manipulate it and drive these bastards crazy. Stop using them. You know what? If everyone stops using their cell phones, or a big, huge majority or half stops it, that will really hurt their program when you think about it. And it's really insulting when I was watching these videos from that stooge, okay? That uncle, the guy who has a tyrannical hard-on for the people in New York City and says, we will make you safe. I'll tell you one thing, my friends. Even in New York City, the police don't have any special duty on protecting you. It's called sovereign immunity and tort liability. They didn't make that one gentleman who got stabbed to death, right, in the subways. According to him, the New York Police Department, the New York Fines didn't do a damn thing. You think you're going to trust these people on not disclosing information if they're here to protect you? Talk about bizarro world. So, that's the question. Will the people in New York City belly up or resist this by any means necessary? It was interesting because there's I check out some of the comments here. Uncle Bob says here, me think this is another follow the money issue. Further grants is advertised for safety purposes made impossible by legislators passing bills that were written by lobbyists representing the companies manufacturing the equipment that cities will purchase with federal grants. Currently in San Jose, the surveillance issue is tied into a big issue is upgrading streetlights. The purpose of the plan was to put control units on top of every one of the 64,000 streetlights in the city. Advertisers going green, saving money by installing LED lights, plus gaining revenue by leasing top cities' own light poles to private telecom companies. And I have read about that too. So he has some great points. And I'll continue on here. For continuous deception, says here, government is a power unto itself. The elected official is not an agent of the sovereign. The official is sovereign. And of course, Clawmaker Jake, unfortunately, our democratic institution has eroded to the point they are no longer able to protect us from surveillance abuse. And of course, very Orwellian indeed. And you know what? I want to play "I Love New York" just to make everyone feel great. The instrumental version of it, of course. And let's all just sing along and be very sarcastic about how great your city is. Even though it's a New York State song, but it's so dramatic. Come on, everyone, sing along. Go, come on. That's right. That's how we got all hold hands and go. I love New York. If you want an Orwellian state, I love New York. Gets booted by the government. I love New York. Where Bill of Rights is the sham bride. I love New York. Think you may have another. I want to be a fan that likes to be an Uncle Tom. I want to be numbered. That's why I live in the Big Apple. Something to think about. And then we go, I love New York, where self-defense is a sin. We want to be registered and be in a corporate entity. We pull down our pants and bow for the system. Mayor de Blasio is a fraud, and his predecessors too. We want to be tax slaves, and that's the truth in it for you. I love New York. We say God bless the Patriot Act. I love New York. When we say just tread on me, I love New York. Where our elected servants are masters. I love New York. For I ain't learned the mission. I know I'm being so sarcastic, but you know what? It has to be earned. I love sarcasm, but that's how I look at it when it comes to New York City. And don't get me wrong, there's some awesome people that live in that town, all right? But one thing I said, when it comes to government, you never trust them, period. And this is just an example, my friends, of how they want to manipulate, lie, cheat, and steal, and say, we're doing this for your own protection. They're trying to give you that wet dream rhetoric. My friends out there, like I said before, a little rebellion now and then is good. If you need another Stonewall uprising to resist Big Brother, I say so be it. And the draft riots that happened during that time in 1863, the Irish uprising, when they're trying to draft people to go to war for the Union. And during that time, they say, you have to pay $300 to get out of the draft. So what happened? The poor bastards, the poor folks, were getting taken advantage of. Just an example. And now with this, what happened on a horrific event on September 11, 2001, which many of us still say was a New World Order agenda. This is just another excuse. Say 9/11, so it's 24/7 excuse for everything. It's just a real blasphemous example. And it needs to be shut down. So you, my brothers and sisters out there, how are you going to make a difference in New York City? And this is another example, because it's happening everywhere around the country and in the world. So, that's all I have to say. I don't want to digress. So, next one here came from shtfplan.com by Mark Slavo. Tax collectors in Florida openly carry guns while the public is banned from doing so. And as it says here, tax collectors in Florida are now publicly announcing the value of being armed when demanding money from its citizens. The problem is that the state bans open carry for civilians that the tax collectors are stealing money from. If you're leery about government intervention in your life and you know that taxation is theft, this article probably strike a nerve. However, on the other hand, if you revile and worship the government, which steals from you and creates edicts you must follow under threats of violence using your stolen money you love while they are going down in the Sunshine State. Yes, so they want you to pull down your pants like everybody else. Oh my God, I don't want to get angry at the government. I'm not to be going to jail. A Central Florida tax collector says a new policy will allow his employees to openly carry firearms while they work. The Associated Press reports Seminole County tax collector Joel Greenberg told the Orlando Sentinel that according to Florida law, he and his employees are considered revenue officers and are exempt from the state's ban on open carry of firearms while performing their duties. Ready for the glaring hypocrisy? The rationale behind the move is to save taxpayers' money by eliminating the need to hire private security. Know what else would save taxpayers' money? No government theft, taxes, or even perhaps lowering tax rates to the point that people aren't willing to shoot at tax collectors over what's obviously amounting to put the gun to the head of a person and demanding money. Last time we looked up the definition of theft, taxation fell firmly into that category. No amount of mental gymnastics could convince a free thinker that money that they made is somehow the property of anyone else. But tax collector Joe Greenberg says he's a big believer in the Second Amendment. Letter to the editor, writer Gordon Crawford points out in Orlando Sentinel, if that is truly the case, he would know that the constitutional amendment was put in place to protect the public from government tyranny, not to arm the government, making stealing easier for government officials. Now the courts have any incentive to provide that. For that, as noted by the Sun Sentinel in March, Florida Supreme Court found state bans on openly carry handguns constitutional, raising stakes for open carry laws under consideration in the legislature this year. But if you work for the government, a steal from others for a living, you can be armed. How odd, right? People want to protect their lives with guns when stealing, as the Constitution already literally declares that all gun laws are unconstitutional. Is for a four-letter word now. Words no socialist wants to hear shall not be in French. I'm so offended. It is more than obvious this kind of action is exactly what the founders of the nation did not intend. When writing the Second Amendment, all the more proof that the government does not protect rights. It is our job to do that. The government is stealing from us at gunpoint. A few even claim as long as they throw a bridge here and there, it's worth it. But is it worth it? What will the founders do? They are probably spinning in their graves with disgrace at the loss of freedoms we allow. This seems to come out right of the despotian dictatorship. And what's interesting, I like when we see that note from the Sun Sentinel in March, and it actually just came out. And see, right, to be very honest, Supreme Courts are full of crap. The Florida Supreme Courts are full of crap. When it says it is constitutional, 4-2 decision. Agreed that appeals court. Yeah, I remember reading about this. And to be very sincere, okay, Dinkleberries up there, okay, to be very sincere, is that you got basic rights under Article 1, Section 2 of the Florida Constitution, and all your natural-born rights are inalienable. Oh, my goodness. So this whole thing about open carry, saying it could be the open carry ban is constitutional, those four deserve a big penile microphone in their mouths. In other words, they're mumbling to you, lying to you, okay? So the truth of the matter is, my friend, this is null and void. The tax collectors aren't that special. They're not, because it's too clamorous. We're a government. We can do whatever we want. You know what? If everyone stopped paying their taxes in Seminole County, they'll go down the drain. So this is why, if you look at the Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, basic rights, has a lot of merit. Oh, Article 1, Section 8, I don't care about that. Your natural-born rights supersede regulations. Plain and simple. So you know what? They can stick it as far as I'm concerned. Blasphemous pigs that they are. All right, next one here. This came from the Free Thought Project. Came out yesterday. FOIA. Doc shows CIA Pentagon made 1,800 movies, TV shows to make America love war. This is by Claire Burnish. Hollywood magic doesn't prelocate only in the minds of legendary producers and acclaimed directors to be brought to life on the big television screens when actors' adept performances capture our imaginations. Rather, if the plot pertains to the military, it is more likely that the Department of Defense had hand in the script. From Meet the Parents, America's Got Talent, The Cupcake Wars, and Dark 30, even Iron Man, Oprah, Patriot Games, and the James Bond thriller Tomorrow Never Dies. If the production pertains to the war machine or surveillance state, it is variable guarantee government significantly influence the final product. Censorship apparently reigns more supremely over Hollywood than we ever surmised. Nearly 1,800 movies and TV shows have borne the fierce scrutiny of the eagle-eyed Pentagon and CIA. And WikiLeaks did one here. It talks about it right here under Medium.com. All right. Now, to proceed, in fact, according to documents obtained by Tom Secker and Matthew Alford for Insurgent Intelligence, the DoD and CIA, and more frequently the NSA, don't take kindly to portrayal in a negative light, even when that well-deserved decision and criticism covers past exploits long common public knowledge. It may be better known how the Pentagon consults with Hollywood to ensure accurate portrayal of chains of command, military culture, proper use of equipment, and other obvious factors. But the DoD, it turns out, might as well pen the script, and in many cases, that's exactly what happens. When applicable, films and television series must be rubber-stamped by the government, no seal of approval, no production. Yes, government, think for me. Wipe my behind, please. When can I have sex with my wife? Before making a movie. Most often, DoD Chief Hollywood Liaison Phil Strub grants the seal for productions where Pentagon guidance has been officially sought. Anything amiss that would require rewrites and adjustments to accommodate the military's best interests. Instances where the two count to an agreement can mean scrapping the entire production, and it has happened before. Seckler and Alford, who obtained more than 4,000 documents pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act requests, which admittedly are not included in the report. Right. If there are characters, action, or dialogue that the DoD don't approve of them, the filmmaker has to make changes to accommodate the military's demand. If they refuse, then the Pentagon packs up its toys and goes home. To obtain full cooperation of producers to have signed contracts, production assistance agreements, when lock them into using military-approved version of the script. Propaganda. Don't believe the hype. This can lead to arguments when actors and directors ad-lib or improvise outside of this approved screenplay. Let there be any doubt, the DoD's weighty presence in filmmaking extends to the most peculiar of details. Insurge intelligence described several instances in which one-liners and dramatic repartee the average moviegoer wouldn't necessarily think twice about featured as a subject of bitter behind-the-scenes quarrels pitting itinerant directors against the PR interests of the U.S. military, with the latter, one way or another, forever the victor. Tomorrow Never Dies provides a sound example telling the Pentagon's fastidiousness as its lord over the silver screen. But more so, in the state desire to remain a surreptitious influence. Yeah, I want them to create my control and have me be their property. Property of the Pentagon and DOD. I should say, real men worship the state, right? Precisely. When Bond is about to do a halo jump out of a military transport plane, they realize he going to land in Vietnamese water. In the original script, Bond's CIA sidekick joke, you know what will happen. It will be war, and maybe this time we'll win. This line was removed at the request of the DOD. Strangely, Phil Shrub denied that there was any support for Tomorrow Never Dies, while the preeminent scholar in the field, Lawrence Silverman, only lists the DOD's connection under the acknowledged cooperation. But the DOD are credited at the end of the film, and we obtain a copy of the production assistance agreement between the producers and the Pentagon. So meticulous, the world's most gargantuan military, even the ostensibly fictitious name of an operation to capture the Hulk in the eponymous 2003 movie had to be switched to Angry Man from Ranch Hand because the latter is the real military operation that saw the U.S. Air Force dump millions of gallons of pesticides and other poisons onto Vietnamese countryside, rendering millions of acres of farmland poisoned and fertile. They also removed dialogue referring to all those boys, guinea pigs, dying from radiation and germ warfare, and apparent reference to covert military experiments on human subjects. That truth is very offensive. Past transgressions, no matter how publicly exonerated at the time, do not acceptable material for the Pentagon make. Reference to the Iran-Contra scandal ultimately sounded to the death knell for a movie called Countermeasures because of its scrub in documents. There is no need to remind the public of the Iran-Contra affair. Rather than risk summoning the specter of government indiscretion and corruption, production of countermeasures ease. The majority of the documents were obtained by diary-like reports from entertainment liaison offices, which rarely refers to script changes and never in an explicit, detailed way. Secker and Alfred Wright, adding so many documents remained undisclosed, or it would be impossible to evaluate to extent of military censorship in Hollywood. However, the documents do reveal that the DoD requires a preview screen of any project they support and sometimes make changes, even if the production has wrapped. When the DoD issues official agreements with the film production crews, the CIA exerts influence in an expectedly less formal manner through its entertainment liaison office. Chase Brandon, who sometimes takes on quite more than advisory capacity, even inserting himself at the foundational writing stages of the creative process. Insurge intelligence continues. Brandon did this most prominently on the spy thriller The Recruit. The new agent is put through a CIA training at the farm, an obvious vehicle for inducting the audience into that world and giving them a glimpse behind the curtain. The original story treatment and early drafts of the script were written by Brandon, though he is only credited on the film as a technical advisor to cover up his influence on the content. The Recruit includes lines about the new threats of the post-Soviet world, which including that great villainous justification for a $600 billion defense budget Peru, along with rebuttals of the idea that the CIA failed to prevent 9/11, and its repeats the adage that the CIA's failures are known. but its successes are not. All of this helped to propagate the idea that the agency is a benevolent, rational actor in a chaotic and dangerous world. Why all this matters come down to censorship and propaganda, that these are these top government entities privileged with an unhindered access to Hollywood, the result amounting to the pro-war American exceptionalism. Bereft of wrongdoing anywhere on the planet where past wrongs vanish and the U.S. agenda could not do wrong. Of course, they want you to bow down and sing, God bless the empire, right? Yeah, and that's at least problematic. Hollywood beckons those weary of ordinary life, wage slavery, debt, eviscerated freedoms, all of it gone for a pricey ticket. Perhaps the penultimate captive audience moviegoers likely don't realize, much less care about the involvement of the Pentagon or CIA if it contributes to realism in film. Depicting conflict, war, and casting exploits in a heroic manner not only betrays the raw messiness of reality, but erases the fuzzy line over which the military frequently leaps. The delineation obviating human rights abuse, war crimes, corruptions, mendacity, and other discretion may cough through the magic of the silver screen. Sometimes the deflection is accomplished through the vilification of single bad apples. Pentagon and CIA consultants offer a single patsy for scoring in film, rather than risking their entire existence over bad PR, even when earned and well known. The idea of using the cinema to pin blame for problems in isolated rogue agents or bad apples, thus avoiding a notion of systematic, institutional, or criminal responsibility, is right out of the CIA DoD's playbook, Secker and Alford note. Notably, if it isn't as if the military and CIA act in an official capacity as censors, producers will be free to nullify their cooperation arrangements and receive no assistance. But that so many eagerly adopt government structures and edits to see production completed indicates a power unfettered in Hollywood. Glorification of war must be achieved with constant bombardment in advertising and the news to keep recruitment viable and service an appealing option. Lest the Pentagon be unable to court-order followers for free thinkers among us, because in fact, war isn't glorious, it isn't glamorous, it isn't a series of epic battles between wholly honorable soldiers.
I would say right now with the heat, either
fighting cold-hearted villains at the behest of dictators or whose only goal involves crushing spines. War is ugly, impossibly complex, gruesome, depictless, savage at times, even from the sterility of a drone control room. Bombs fall on human beings, and interminable lists of innocents killed by soldiers from every side fighting the various politicians. War can attest to its abhorrence. And if you know if you know that, you're less likely to enlist, less likely to approve military escalation, less likely to protest a war into this patriotic wrapping and festooned with a ribbon of tradition. War and spy games come to life on the big and little screens, portray adventure, intrigue, drama, and suspense, but they are not real life, no matter how authentic the Pentagon affirms their details. Of course, this is how they do it. It's called Mind Control 101, and it's really interesting because when they get involved in all these areas, it's really mind blowing how they try to manipulate and influence people on how they can do what they want and think we should revolve around them. So, and this came out on the 4th of June, this actual thing. And the fact is this, my friend, you can never, ever look at this and say, this is true, this is real, and I will say, I will live free as long as I'm still a free man, even when we live in a police state. Remember, it's called the Church of Hollywood. All right? You gotta always observe responsibly. And to be very honest, there's a lot of movies I've seen. It's all like, so it's funny about me because I've seen some certain movies. I just fell asleep. I don't get so fascinated by it anymore. Because you always gotta look at things a lot broader than what it is. Because how authentic is it? That is the question. So when I see, I'm not a big fan of these pro-war propaganda films. Even I saw like the original Red Dawn was cool. All right, and the latest remake was good. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like the original because it has the person who actually did it would say what if, and because something like that I appreciate, but not this whole anything that's from CIA and Department of Justice and Pentagon trying to occupy creative control on the Church of Hollywood. That's why, if you notice, there's a big battle going on within that institution. So, I always say, observe responsibly. Don't manifest on these big mainstream movies, including these pro-war films and TV shows and all that. Because as I recall, when that TV show Revolution came out, I think they only did 3 seasons, right? And it couldn't continue because it was too realistic. But I have to give it credit because that was a very good show. And even when I saw Jericho, and it was funny because I'm not a big TV fanatic. I was like watching like the last 4 or 5 episodes before they shut that down on the season 2. I was pretty impressed. I've taken the initiative on watching it, and that was good too. But that was too real, and it was interesting because even the producers were saying they're talking about mainly post 9/11, and what can happen. So if you have a chance, check those shows out. So I give it a lot of credit. It's on Netflix, and go to the library, check it out. Okay, so but these big movies, big movies and so forth, I could care less, man. It's like, even, please rise, like all these sporting events, they want you to salute the military, but they say, oh, I live free, but I'm in a police state. It's all like mind control. So that is really it on that aspect. And finally, this came out yesterday, Activist Post. And, Activist Post. Matt Agrist. He's really good. I always enjoy his work. And this one here, I came from Free Thought Project as well. And it says here, recording reveals FBI gave man a rifle, urged him to carry out mass shooting to defend Islam. Oh, another Manchurian candidate, right? He has his reads here. It becomes nearly week occurrence somewhere in some state. The FBI will announce that they foiled yet another terrorist plot to save lives. However, as the data shows, the majority of these cases involve psychologically diminished patsies who have been entirely groomed, armed, and trapped by FBI agents. Simply put, the FBI manufactures terror threats, then it takes credit for stopping them. But what happens when they take it too far? What happens if the FBI actually tells someone to conduct a mass shooting? Well, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we are seeing this unfold firsthand. A little over 2 years ago, Sami Mohammed Hamez, 25, found in the midst of an FBI sting. Little did he know that he was being groomed for terrorism by the same government who claimed to fight terrorism. Hamas was born in the U.S., but much of his childhood in Jordan before moving to Milwaukee when he was 19. For 4 years, Hamaz lived an entirely normal life until one day he was contacted by people who want to radicalize him and give him weapons. Hey, Bone Fetcher, come on down. The group, entirely controlled by the FBI, was planning to shoot up the Humphrey Scottish Rite Masonic Center during the event. In February 2016, the FBI announced that they have foiled a terror plot by a man who was planning to kill at least 30 people to defend Islam. Americans cheered and everyone felt safer. The FBI has saved us from extremists. Once again, ticker tape parade for the Federal Bureau of Investigations was okay for them to collect data and be influenced by the Third Reich. Yeah, I love them. I'll continue on here. For months, two corrupt FBI informants goaded Hamas into obtaining weapons. According to his attorneys, hundreds of hours of recorded conversations show the FBI pressed Hamza, excuse me, I always say Hamas, it's Hamza, into getting these weapons. Eventually began pushing him to carry out a mass shooting. Come on, bellboy, do your job. Despite the intense peer pressure from people pretending that they were mass murderers, Hamza resisted. He didn't even want the guns. Now his attorney had filed a motion to get him released on bond because they say he's been set up. The informants, the motion states, frequently lobbied Hamza to get the machine gun despite his repeated protests that all he wanted was a legal handgun to protect himself. In spite of the FBI claiming Hamza was going to carry out a mass shooting, they were attempting to force him to do. The recordings, according to his attorneys, show he resisted and adamantly refused to ever participate in violence. Even after the FBI announced their foiled terror plot, they were unable to charge Hamza with anything other than possessing a machine gun and a silencer. Even these items had been essentially shoved into his lap by the FBI. As the Journal Sentinel reports, a psychiatrist who evaluated Hamza in jail concluded that he does not fit a profile of someone who will kill strangers and has a strong moral code with a very prominent conscience and empathy. There is also no evidence that Hamza ever made any plans or was doing anything other than making empty boasts to express his resentment about Israel or to gain attention, reads their brief in support on the bond motion. Hamza has now been in jail for a year and a half because the FBI tried to make him carry out a mass shooting that he didn't want to do. And he could be there much longer as each of the charges for the weapons he also did not want carry 10 years apiece. If Hamza never had any intention of carrying out a terror attack and the weapons were forced on him by the FBI, why on earth would this be on the news and touted as some foiled plot? Well, the answer is that is simple. Former FBI Assistant Director Thomas Fuentes actually reveals the answer as he defends the tactics used by the FBI to set up poverty-stricken men by offering them large sums of money and weapons to commit crimes. After he defends the FBI's role in bribing poor, mentally diminished people to get them to commit crimes, he led a bombshell statement confirming that what many of us already know. If you're submitting budget proposals for a law enforcement agency, for a law intelligence agency, you're not going to submit the proposal. We won the war on terror and everything's great. Because the first thing that's going to happen is your budget's going to be cut in half, states Fuentes. You know it's my opposite of Jesse Jackson's Keep Hope Alive, is Keep Fear Alive. Keep it alive. Oh, name of the war on terror, my friends. Wow. Can we say incrimination? The cat came out of the bag. There you have it. The FBI puts Americans in danger by grooming otherwise entirely innocent people in doing harm, so they can keep fear alive. But what would have happened if Hamza would have actually carried out the shooting that the FBI was trying to force on him? Would the FBI still claim they had informants attempting to groom him? Would they admit to forcing him to accept weapons? David Steele, a 20-year Marine Corps intelligence officer, the second highest ranked civilian in the U.S. Marine Corps intelligence, and former CIA Calvin Service case officer, had to say about this more unscrupulous operations. More terrorists are false flag terrorists created by our own security services in the United States, and every single terrorist incident we have been in a false flag or an informant pushed on by the FBI. In fact, we now have citizens taking out restraining orders against FBI informants that are trying to incite terrorism. We become a lunatic asylum. Indeed, we have become a lunatic asylum. And there's a Kaiser report on here too, which is a link for that. And it talks about it's Kaiser report, War on Terror, Self-Leaking Ice Cream Cone, which is episode 731. And this is truly amazing. And of course, Robert Davis Steele, he talks about it. So it's like a 26-minute video. You can check it out yourself. And this is why, my friends, I've been pretty persistent at this. When I say the war on terror is a conflict with the people or ourselves. It stands for almost 15 years and counting. And of course, the things about the FBI and the Third Reich, how J. Edgar Hoover's fast by collecting information and all this. So to keep the fear going, keep the payroll, make the revenue, get their revenue or grants, they've got to put the people in fear. Fear is the greatest weapon. Mind control is their hobby. So this is totally condemning. And the folks in the United States need to be aware the members, the FBI in general, are the enemy of the United States of America as a republic rather than a corporation. So what you're going to be doing, folks, I say start spreading this word to everyone. Because you know why? Because one day they may be coming to you and they might want you to bend over. You tell them to go F themselves. Okay? Plain and simple. Treason is their motive or purpose. Not saying everyone in this institution are wicked people, but they're being caught in the middle on what they're doing and what this tyrannical game to road to a broader police state, brave new world, part of the New World Order agenda. I say to hell with them and anyone else that want to manifest that cause. Okay, my friends, that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this episode and anything else on my archives throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you're missing something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, Minds.com, FutureClub.net, or Patreon.com, which is LokiLuck3 with 3 eyes, /3 eyes. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3, that's the number 3, at gmail.com, or the encrypted types, LokiLuck03, numbers 0 and 3, at protonmail.com. All right, my friends, once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you. And sing this song in parody.